Pipeline Studio is about understanding your workflow and knowing when it's running smoothly. Context loss. Systems do not fail when they slow down. They fail when they lose the ability to explain why they are slowing down. Slowdown by itself is not a problem, it is information. It tells the system that capacity is being reached, that alignment is slipping, or that conditions have changed. When that information is understood, slowdown can be managed. Failure begins when that understanding is lost. At that point, the system is no longer responding to conditions. It is reacting to symptoms. Work takes longer. Handoffs become uncertain. Decisions feel heavier than they should, but no one can say exactly why. The system still functions, output still moves, yet confidence erodes. This is context loss. Context loss does not occur all at once. It accumulates gradually as explanation is deferred. A delay is tolerated without being examined. A workaround is accepted without being documented. An exception becomes routine without being questioned. Each step preserves continuity. Each step reduces clarity. Over time, the system continues to operate on assumptions that are no longer shared. Different parts of the pipeline hold different explanations for the same behavior. Nothing is technically wrong, but nothing is fully understood either. This is why context loss is so dangerous. It does not announce itself as failure. It announces itself as confusion. People work harder to compensate. Processes thicken. Communication increases without resolving uncertainty. The system expends energy without gaining insight. At this stage, slowdown feels arbitrary. It feels personal. It feels like inefficiency rather than signal. And because the cause is unclear, responses become unfocused. More effort is applied. More urgency is introduced. More pressure is added to maintain pace. These reactions often worsen the condition they are meant to address. Speed increases, explanation decreases, context loss accelerates. What the system has actually lost is not performance. It has lost a shared understanding of cause and effect. When that understanding disappears, every slowdown feels suspicious. Every delay feels like failure. Every pause feels dangerous. This is where systems begin to break themselves, not by stopping, but by pushing forward without knowing what they are pushing against. Context loss turns manageable constraints into existential threats. It converts normal variation into perceived instability. The system stops asking what changed. It starts asking, who is responsible? That shift marks the beginning of real failure. A system with context can tolerate slowdown. It can explain it. It can decide how to respond. A system without context can only feel it. And systems that only feel pressure eventually confuse motion with control. This arc begins here, with the distinction between slowdown that informs and slowdown that alarms, between systems that can explain their behavior and systems that can only react to it. What makes context loss especially corrosive is that it feels like pressure without cause. People sense that something is wrong but cannot locate it. The system feels heavier, but no single change explains why. When explanation disappears, trust follows it. Teams stop trusting timelines. Operators stop trusting signals. Leaders stop trusting the system's own feedback. Everyone compensates in isolation. This is how slowdown turns from information into threat. Not because conditions worsened, but because the system lost the language to describe them. Once that language is gone, every delay feels urgent. and urgency replaces understanding as the default response. A system that cannot explain its own slowdown will always mistake pressure for failure, even when the conditions are ordinary and recoverable. Without shared explanation, slowdown stops being diagnostic and starts feeling existential, which is how systems turn manageable constraints into crises. This concludes this session. Let what you've heard settle before continuing.